2 years, 8 months and 28 days. And I've got to say that as I step off the bus for what could be the last time spent as sitting in your boss supermarket queues, etc. And I have to say though, it's only today that I'm glad to be leaving. I really will miss the when Santa.
You're listening to TruthConduit.com with Chris McMillan.
Hey everybody, Chris McMillan here with TruthConduit.com, and this is episode 16. And today I spoke with Amanda Price. She's an excellent coach and trainer on nonviolent communication. We originally met in Richard Grove's autonomy class. It's a course, and it's a course designed to train people with skills that they were never taught in school. And this is done in order to break away from whatever's holding them back and achieve whatever it is that they're not getting in life. So Amanda's been giving nonviolent communication, or NVC, workshops and lectures during the course, and a lot of students have participated, and it's been very successful. I've had a lot of successful results, and it's still ongoing. I thought I'd get her on to talk about that. So for anyone who isn't familiar with nonviolent communication, what is it? They'll be guaranteed to learn something new. And for people who are already familiar with it, it'll be a good recap to recap on what it's all about, refresh your memory, and maybe you'll pick up a few tidbits that you hadn't thought of before. So we had a great chat and even a few laughs, and we even applied a real-time application at one point when my son was starting to slightly misbehave behind my computer with the cat. So I used that as an on-site example of what I should and shouldn't do. So we had a lot of laughs. I've dropped loads of links into the show notes, so I encourage you, after listening to the interview, to check them out. And there's a lot of information there that could lead you down maybe a lot of life-changing habits. We'll see how it goes. So thanks a lot. So
Okay.
Amanda Price, how are you?
I'm doing very well, Chris. Thank
Good.
you.
So we've met through Autonomy, the Richard Grove's Autonomy season. I was season 1, you're season 2. How are you finding it so far?
Words can't describe, Chris. I'm getting so much more out of it than I ever imagined, honestly. The content, the connections, the community, it's exceeded my expectations in a way that has really built my confidence on how to move forward with the reasons why I joined the class in the first place.
Cool. Well, Amanda, you specialize in the art of nonviolent communication. You've given workshops, and a lot of people have been participating in them. I managed to catch one of them. I'm sorry I didn't catch the second two, plus the exercises that you've been doing. Have you done 3 so far? 3 where you apply it, or did you just finish the 4th one the other day? I know there's 3 that's been done.
I've led 3 practice sessions, yeah, in addition to three components of the mini course that I kicked off when I joined Autonomy. Yeah.
Well, let's go back to the basics. For anyone who may not know what the nonviolent communication is, or we call it NVC, what is it and why is it important?
Thank you for asking that question, Chris. I've been working on, what is the elevator pitch for something that's so meaningful and complex and has so many arms and threads. And as I think about it, the best way I can describe it, Chris, beyond anything else, is a consciousness. It's really a chosen way of being and showing up in the world, where what matters most is human connection. It's the idea of getting to a place where we can voluntarily and joyfully give and receive. And this idea that we all as human beings share the same universal needs. And when we are able to support ourselves and each other in meeting our needs, then that will empower us all to survive and thrive in this world. So
Very good. Very good.
a bit conceptual. So, you know, you can get down to the brass tacks where really it's comprised of, you know, words and language and communication skills and tools that you can apply to achieve what I just described.
Some people seem to be naturally good at it, but most people are not. Just a question of awareness and mindfulness, isn't it?
Absolutely. And the gentleman who coined the term nonviolent communication, Marshall Rosenberg, believed that we as human beings inherently want to connect with others. We want to support one another, but the 2000 plus years of programming in the other direction has really limited our ability to access that natural capacity. So it's really about unlearning all that we have learned in the institutions and organizations, which, at least in my life, have really influenced the way I saw the world and how I operated in the world.
I've read, in fact, I've got Rosenberg's book here. Yeah.
Oh,
And I have
excellent.
read it. I've processed it. Well, I haven't processed. I've read it. I've taken notes,
Yeah.
but that's just the first step. I mean, really, one thing that I've found out is the application is not so easy. So, for example, when I'm having a discussion with my parents, I know that I should be saying it this way. I should be doing better this way, but it's not easy. It's not as easy as it seems for some people. The uh, and that's why he calls it the art. It's called the art
Yeah.
of nonviolent communication because it takes practice and
It
perfection.
does. Yeah.
How did you get into it? How did you first discover it? I mean, were you always aware of it? What's the story leading up to you being a workshop consultant on this topic?
I wish I had discovered it 20 years ago, or even earlier than that. But if I recall correctly, it was through the Liberty and Truth community that I discovered NVC. It was through a podcast, believe it or not, and it hit me in a moment in my life where I was open to hearing the message. And the moment I heard the individual's in the podcast, his story, it touched me, and I said, "This is what I need. This is what I want for the rest of my life." um, it spoke so much to the importance of relationships over everything else, and that's where I sort of landed. That no matter what accomplishments I've made in my life, what tooting my horn or others, it really comes down to the quality of the relationships with the people that I care most about. And, as I shared a little bit before, so much of the way that we interact in the world, whether it's critical self-talk or, beating ourselves up or having very disconnected communications with others, especially those that we care the most about, I was truly just sick and tired of living in that, that way of being. And so when I discovered NBC, it spoke to my heart, and I said, "This is me. This is what I want." And with my with my corporate background, I worked in the area of human resources and in HR management. And the one thing I really loved about that role were all of the opportunities I had to facilitate meetings and to provide training. It came to me that with the love of NVC, I could combine that with consultation, training, facilitation, and make that my new vocation. So it was an easy decision.
And once you started to apply it in your everyday life, could you immediately tell a big difference? Did it make a huge impact on your personal and professional life?
So interestingly, when I made the decision to pursue NVC, I had already quit my job. And I wish that I had had that consciousness and the skills while I was working in that world, because I might still be there today, but just in a very different capacity, much happier, and maybe doing something very differently than I was. What I will say is, as I began to really integrate the message and the learnings and the tools of NVC, it absolutely began to make a difference in the quality of my life and in the quality of the relationships that I have. And I'm still learning every day. It's by no means you learn it and then you do it and you do it perfectly. It is a daily practice. And what I found, Chris, to be the hardest moments to actually practice it and to be in that awareness of wanting to stay in connection with someone, for example, is when you're speaking to the people that are the most important people in your life. It's easy to practice NVC with a stranger in a store, you know, but practicing it when emotions are really high and you're speaking to your partner and it's a, you know, it's a really key conversation, it can be really hard.
That actually makes a lot of sense
Yeah.
because there's so much emotion and history invested. And also, you're more likely to get called out on it. They'll say, "What you're talking differently. What are you going on about?" What?
Not only called out in maybe the way that you use the words, but also when you decide to make a commitment to this, then they will hold you accountable for doing it. So I get called out by my spouse and my kids all the time. Mom, is that really NVC? I don't think so. So I have some good accountability partners in my life, keeping me on track. But you know, it's also such a gift to even, you know, even when you've had a conversation that really has not gone well, to build that awareness, to go back to it, contemplate it, think about, you know, what needs I might have been trying to meet in the moment by speaking the way that I did, what needs I didn't meet, which was probably making me feel crappy afterwards. And then what did I learn from that conversation so that I can go circle back. And that has been one of the greatest gifts, is literally like contemplating what happened, then going back and trying to do a redo or reconnecting. That ability to reconnect after a conversation that didn't go the way that you wanted, has been a wonderful addition to how I nurture my relationships in my life.
One fascinating point that I found was it also would help identify. Actually, it seemed to me, my impression is if you're aware of the nonviolent communication tactics or methods, it helps you identify when someone is actually doing the opposite toward you. For example, compliments. I never thought of this, but compliments can actually mean the opposite of what they seem.
It's the same idea. Have you ever read Alfie Kohn's book, Punished by Rewards?
I have got that on my book list.
Oh,
I'm aware of the book, but I have not read it. Yeah, Punishment by Rewards. That's a hot book in the homeschooling community as well.
yeah, right. He also wrote Unconditional Parenting, which helped lay the foundation for how I wanted to show up as a parent when I had my first child. But that idea that compliments are essentially praise, and praise can be, it falls under that idea of deserving language, which is one of the 4 Ds of disconnection that they call and that they refer to in NVC. That idea of deserving language. Either you're going to be rewarded with compliments or punished because you did something that someone else didn't like. And then the question is, well, who makes that decision, right? But secondly, the idea of compliments, it doesn't describe how you met someone else's needs. So if you really are feeling deep gratitude for someone because of, you know, maybe the beauty of the art that they put together, or they gave you a gift that you just so appreciated, just saying, oh, you know, great job, is not gonna, it's not gonna explain how your needs were met by their gesture or even the art that they make, or whatever it might be. So in NVC, what they encourage you to do is describe the feeling that was generated by the act or of what they did or what they produced, and the needs that it met. And by doing that, it helps to bridge that connection, and they understand your gratitude and how much you appreciated something without labeling them as a great artist or a great cook or, you know, a great worker, whatever it might be.
Yeah, it's an excellent point. I'm sitting here thinking of all the times that I have complimented my fellow autonomizers in that way, and I could have done better. You know, instead of saying, "Hey, great job on the podcast last Saturday," instead of saying that, I should say, the person you spoke to was put on my radar, and now I find that their work that they do has made an added value to my life. Boom. So there's an example of non-NVC. Great job to NVC. Okay.
Precisely. And that person walks away hearing that they've truly added value to your life, and they understand how it happened, right? They just don't, they're not walking around thinking, oh, I must be a good interviewer, you know? So it's back to sort of judgments of character, and compliments are judgments of character, calling people names is a judgment of character, as opposed to focusing on what they're doing or what they're bringing to your life.
So who out there in the world needs nonviolent communication the most?
Well, Chris, everyone and everyone can benefit from NVC.
Yeah.
It's also referred to as compassionate communication, empathic communication, effective, peaceful, so on and so forth. So if someone is looking it up, they might find it under those other names as well. Honestly, at the end of the day, I think those people who, whether or not they recognize it or not, those that are leading lives that are very disconnected from themselves or others, would benefit the most from learning and considering incorporating NVC into their lives.
And this seems to be getting worse and worse every day with technology. As you know, the cell phone is like a hammer. It's a tool. You can use it for great things. At the same time, you can use it for very detrimental things. And I think the distraction of technology is definitely creating a disconnect in everyday communication with people. What do you think? Do you agree? Or
you're leading me to think of my experience even producing and leading the mini courses that I did for autonomy. And it was the first time that I ever did a virtual live workshop. And thankfully we had video through Zoom, which helped me because I was able to visually see, busts of people. And I saw heads either, sway or nod, which helped. But I'm used to sharing and experiencing NVC live in person in workshops or training sessions or meetings or what have you. And it was such a contrast to share it over technology. And on the one hand, I shared something that hopefully there were a lot of the participants may not have ever heard of. So it was new and great for them. And on the other hand, the fact that I wasn't able to be in the room live with them and really be able to experience their energy and observe their nonverbal communication was hard for me. So even just in that one example of sharing NVC, technology is great because I can reach a much wider audience. On the other hand, it is limited. And I have a 15-year-old son and he texts me from his room.
oh no.
So
Yeah.
it's a reality in today's world, at least in the society in which I live. They are, phones and laptops and whatever are wonderful tools, and they create a lot of limits around how we interact with one another. And I believe for sure that is one of the major causes of disconnection and the true divisiveness that we are seeing across the board between factions of us and them. Look at any headline and you'll see it.
And I mean, a solution again would be awareness. If you're aware of, to be more self-aware, like if you go to the restaurant and people are just disengaged on their phone, that next step of consciousness saying, okay, all right, I'm not going to be one of these people on my phone in the restaurant, so leave it in the car or turn it off.
Exactly.
But even that simple step of mindfulness is hard for some people. Sometimes it takes observing other people doing it to make you realize, hold on, I catch myself doing that too. And that applies across the board with everything. but yeah, the technology is definitely, it depends how you use it and aware of it. I always ask myself, what is okay? You're sitting at a restaurant and you see somebody sit next to you and they're both on their phones.
Yeah.
Before casting judgment, what are they doing? Are they, are they dealing? Are they a doctor helping somebody? You don't know. But
Exactly.
at the end of the day, you just know that most people are just sitting there playing some mindless game and doing any there. It's an excuse not to talk to the person that they're sitting down with.
Well, Chris, even going beyond that, I think for so many people, they're not even aware that it's disconnecting them from the person sitting in front of them. It's truly not on their radar. I don't think they're using it. If you're maybe on an awkward first date and things aren't going well, then a phone might be a really valuable tool.
Yeah.
But other than that, it's almost like it draws you in so much that you literally forget that someone is sitting across from you, and you could have such a beautiful connection with that other person, hearing and expressing and sharing. And it's, yeah, we've really lost to a great degree that art of connecting with people through conversation and through just listening, just hearing, just even being silently with one another occasionally.
So, what would you suggest to anyone who really wants to get better at the art of nonviolent communication? Where would they start? How would they go about starting to learn about it and practice it?
Marshall Rosenberg's book, the one that you shared, Nonviolent Communication, is a fantastic place to begin. And then, as technology does bring lots of benefits, particularly around learning, you can visit YouTube and find hundreds of videos of Marshall Rosenberg. There are, audiobooks that you can listen. He wrote several of those. He wrote several books, and some of them are audiobooks, so you can access them digitally. And so beyond that self-study, there are also organizations worldwide that offer live NVC trainings. And there are people out there like what I'm becoming as a NVC coach, consultant, trainer, where you can also connect with them either one-on-one or in group facilitated settings to learn live from NVC practitioners.
Are you there's the Center for Nonviolent Communication. They have their own website. Um, this may sound like a silly question. It's just occurred to me. Are they a brick and mortar place as well, or is it a spread out group of people who use their resources in one place?
The CNVC it is a brick and mortar facility, but it's not, as far as I understand, it's not a place where people come from all over to learn NVC. It's distributed. So it's a small administrative and leadership team that supports NVC trainers worldwide. And so from that website, you could look up, from where you live, you could look up a listing of local organizations or individuals from which you might be able to plug in and learn or practice NVC, for example. But it's not like a center where everyone comes to learn NVC.
Okay, I think that was the way I had imagined it, was as a big brick and mortar building where.
No.
Okay, and where is it? Just out of curiosity.
They are based in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And one thing that they do every year is they sponsor what they call intensives, IITs, International Intensive Trainings. And the public is welcome to participate in those. And they generally run, I think, 10 to 11 days. So it's a deep, long immersion in NVC. And throughout the intensive retreat, which are held in all over the world, which is great. Again, there are a variety of certified NVC trainers that lead workshops and presentations and classes where you fully get that immersive experience of NVC. Because part of it, when you said yes a little bit earlier about sometimes just being aware of someone else, say putting away their phone when they sit down to eat. A lot of NVC is picked up by observing others. It's sort of that role modeling, and hearing people. I was in a retreat similar to an IIT, but that was designed specifically for people on the trainer certification path, which I'm on with the CNVC. They offered a session where the leadership team of the retreat, they were just going to have a meeting, like their own meeting. It had nothing to do with the retreat, but they invited people to come simply just to observe how they interacted within the NVC consciousness to talk about something completely unrelated to the retreat itself. And it was absolutely fascinating to see it live in action, yeah, it was beautiful.
So popularity and interest in this is growing, would you say?
Absolutely. When I began my trainer certification track, there were probably around 600 certified trainers worldwide. And now there are easily probably around 1,200, and people are joining the certification track left and right. And you don't have to become certified. They encourage, you're encouraged to share NVC in whatever way, capacity you wish.
It's growing worldwide. Is there a particular demographic of people that are taking on NVC over others? Do you know what I mean? Maybe people who work in public relations, people, is there a certain profession, or is it pretty much across the board?
I would say it's pretty much across the board, with the caveat that there aren't a lot of people who work in business that practice it. And that's one of the niches that I'm hoping to penetrate, is bringing empathic and nonviolent communication strategies into businesses and into teams, and it becoming a component of leadership training, so on and so forth. So there's not a lot of that. It does occur, and where it does occur, it's very effective, but it's not a popular area at this point. I can say there are a lot of NVC practitioners who are also in the skilled helping community. So whether they're counselors or therapists, psychologists, that is one thread. Teachers, healthcare, you imagine the conversations between like nurses and doctors on one hand, and then nurses and doctors and patients on the other. It's a huge area.
Yeah, that is the best example healthcare.
Yeah, and the criminal justice system. There have been incredible programs of bringing NVC into the prison systems. That's just done wonders. Yeah.
Some basic examples of what not to say and then making it better. So if I said, "Oh, Amanda, you're being very difficult."
Chris, when I said that I'm not willing to go out to lunch with you today, was that, did you feel some frustration because you were really wanting to talk about NVC today when you made time for it?
Yeah, pretty much. But also I felt a bit of relief, because I don't have a whole lot of money right now, and you were going to have to pay, and that would have been embarrassing. So it was win-win for me.
Yeah.
I've got a little note up here. It says, "Are you being difficult?" And no, you're being difficult. If I wanted to, accuse someone of, you change it, say, "Do you think you're being difficult?" Yeah. And that's my starting point with NVC, is right there. If I can remember that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but that does lead to my point. For someone at level 0 with NVC, what is the basic lesson that anyone should remember just to get started?
What's been most effective for me, that seems to be pretty easy to remember, Chris, is the idea of when I start to feel a judgment coming on of someone else, or I start to feel stimulated, I start to feel irritated, I feel my heart beating, or my face is getting a little warm. I do whatever I can to remember to switch from judgment and thoughts about the other to curiosity. Switching to curiosity and asking questions, trying to figure out where the other person is coming from has been fantastic. So it's moving from judgment and reaction to observation and curiosity. So how does that land for you? Is that
That's
something that you think
that is
is
excellent.
doable?
Yeah, that is excellent. And that ties into the Socratic method that we talk about quite a bit in autonomy. Ask questions, always asking questions.
Exactly. And the more you learn, the more you stay open to just hearing. Think about how you feel, Chris, when you feel really heard. When you have something on your chest or on your mind that you really want to get out, and someone is really deeply listening to you. How is that experience for you coming out of that? Can you think of how that lands for you?
Yeah.
Whether or not they agree with you, just the fact that they were there and they gave you their attention and they gave you the signs, they demonstrated that they truly got what you were talking about and where you were coming from.
This kind of ties into a theory of mine that why people go to bars, for example, and they like to sit at the bar and unload their, onto a stranger, because sometimes that can prove to be better therapy than anything else. And that ties in, even though they're not going to solve their problem, just getting it out to somebody else, that helps, just getting it out.
It absolutely does. And it very often is associated with a shift in their attitude or perspective, and tends to incite them to then be willing to hear what the other person has to say. If you feel heard, then then you become willing to hear others. And that's where you maintain or regain that connection that might have been lost in the heat of the moment.
Is it very different with children?
No, in fact, what I would say is it's even more evident in children. NVC in parenting is, for me, been one of the greatest gifts in my life. How I show up with my children, how I speak with them, and they're sponges. They give it right back. It's easy for them to pick it up because they haven't been so indoctrinated over the years.
So here's a perfect example of NVC. I'm interviewing you as we speak, and my son is just behind the camera, and he's got a cat, and he's making the cat go rah, 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 by shaking it. So my reaction would be, shut up and get the cat out of here. What should I say?
I would start with a question. I would say an observation and a question. Like, I see you standing right there and you're messing with the cat. What's going on? Or, are you anxious for me to wrap up because you want to spend some time with me? So maybe make a guess around what's going on for him.
Yeah. Can you hear the cat, by the way?
I cannot, no.
Good. I don't know if it'll pick up on the microphone, but all right, good. What's going on in the future with you? So you're getting your certification. What's happening with Amanda Price?
Yeah, my goal is to complete the certification process probably within the next 2 to 3 years. You can try to fast track it, but learning and applying this and sharing it is not conducive to fast tracking, so to speak, at least not in my lifetime. So I'm working on it sort of as a self-paced master's degree program. That's sort of how I'm thinking about it. I just make the space and the time to do it when I can, in terms of formal trainings. So I'd love to have that certification process complete within 2 to 3 years. And as of today, I am seeking opportunities to share NVC in a variety of formats. So I want to create some online courses that people can access on demand, so pre-recorded. I'd love to hold sessions like I have with Autonomy, where it's a live online course. I'd also love to, and have started to, bring NVC training into organizations. So small companies, schools. I'd also love to connect with parents, as well as individuals and couples. Certainly not from a therapeutic side, but from just sharing NVC in a way that might benefit and just bring more joy and connection to people's lives.
Yeah. And you're from a technical side, apart from training in the art of nonviolent communication, you're building your website. You're getting a lot of tech full on thrown to the wolves tech training in there. How's that
Absolutely.
going?
It's exciting, and I'm also trying to keep up with the lectures and everything else. So I haven't done much, but I have a plan of action that's very clear ahead of me. So within the next couple of weeks, my hope is that I'm communicating with other autonomy students or graduates about pulling up the website and finalizing my logo and yeah, just getting an online presence so I can start making offers that way.
What's the website then?
The name is catalystthread.com. Yeah.
Catalyst Thread.
Yes.
All right. CATALY.
Yes.
S
ST. Yeah.
ST
Yeah.
Thread. THR.
Catalystthread.com. Yeah. So you
Excellent.
won't see anything if you go there,
No.
but I
keep
do.
in mind, this this interview will go on the Autonomy channel, and it'll be up long. Your
Yeah,
website will be
good
up.
point.
Yeah.
Good point.
So
Yes.
someone listening to this in a few weeks or in a few months' time will be able to go right to it, to catalystthread.com.
That's right.
And what will you be offering there exactly?
What I'd like to do is make an offer of free initial 30-minute one-on-one consulting sessions. So folks who have no idea what I'm talking about or who have just a very preliminary curiosity can connect with me live, and I will do my best to share, similar to what I've done with you, Chris, kind of what this is all about, and maybe give them some real life experience of the power that it has, particularly if they're willing to share, something in their life that they're wrangling with, and how NVC might be able to help. I also want a repository of a variety of online, pre-recorded offerings of sharing NVC, whether it's, an introduction to NVC, or I'm even thinking of developing small little tutorial vignettes, so to speak, like maybe 5 minutes long at most, that just speak to one specific situation in somebody's life that they can click on and say, oh, maybe this is how I can handle this particular situation with my annoying coworker, or my needy dad, or my, crazy child, and I'm using all of these, labels.
That is an excellent idea, because that will tie into, it's a sad fact, and I'm a victim myself, but we're all programmed to have shorter and shorter attention spans with every generation. And that I know, if I were going into that topic, that would be something that would definitely be appealing, and that would kind of be a nice moderator between the overwhelmingness of the whole entity as itself. Nice introduction. That's great. I'm really excited about what you're pulling here. Is there anything else before we wrap up that you want to add?
I just wanted to add that I would also use the website to promote any live workshops that I might be offering, so people could sign up that way. I'd love to start a blog, so develop an email subscription list and send out a blog, maybe twice a month, that's rooted in empathic communication, as well as a way to promote any individual consultations that folks might want to, or organizational trainings that people might want to hire me for. So yeah, I'd like to use the website as that platform. And gosh, in terms of anything else, I just want to share my gratitude, Chris, that you're interested in this topic. And it seems that it really has touched your heart in a way that it's made an impact. And you seem quite excited about it in the way that I have. I have a lot of enthusiasm and passionate about it, just as it's just part of me now, It's
I know how important it is It's so
Mm.
important, and it's a lot. Communication skills are so essential for everybody on every level, and that's where I see the threads of society kind of falling apart. Is there are other factors, of course, but one of the most important ones, is people's inability to communicate. And I can compare. I see it all the time. I remember when I was younger, my 20s, college, and meeting people would have a two-way conversation. It was much more normal, and that is actually hard to find these days. People who can have basic communications, let alone NVC skills. So it's an important aspect of a larger picture of things that are going on here, and it's so important. So yeah, it's definitely something I will always be aware of, trying to work on. I've got your lectures and your workshops; they're all on my hard drive because I don't like having things um, on the cloud. So
Yeah.
as soon as something of value is added, I download it, and I've got yours here. I do look forward to processing them. It's just so important. So I really appreciate everything that you're doing, Amanda, and for taking the time to talk to me today.
Oh, the pleasure's been all mine, Chris. And if in your studies, as you go back to what I've produced, if you have any questions or would like to just, bang heads together and talk through stuff, please reach out. I'd love to.
Cool. Well, Amanda, thank you very much.
Thank you, Chris.
Cool.
Okay.
You've been listening to truthconduit.com with Chris McMillan. Go to the subscribe page and sign up to get notifications of the latest posts, and check out the support page to help keep it going.
Yeah, I've got a friend in Jesus Christ. I've got a friend in Jesus Christ, and Krishna and Buddha and my bartender.